time for the Daily Planet podcast show. So sit back, relax, and give us a go. Scott and Matt and maybe a guest, undertaking an epic podcast. We're gonna ramble on about movies and books and television and directors and film festivals and this really long list of stuff that I know nothing about, but they gave it to me and they really wanted me to read through it. And that's all I can really say about it, but it's gonna be great. Okay, start the show.
Hello, and welcome to the Daily Planet podcast, your weekly podcast for all things movies, TV, books, and anything else we feel like talking about. My name is Scott Daly, and I am your host, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host and co-human, Matt Freeman. Matt, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you, Scott. I'm feeling stupendous today, and I'm looking forward to talking about all of the many, many movies that I saw this year in theaters.
That's a little twinge of sarcasm there, Matt.
Yes, of course. We're going to be talking about this year's movies, and I have seen hardly any of them, but it's not going to stop us. Scott, you've seen a lot of them, though, right?
I looked at my letterbox today. I've seen 257 movies today, or this year. Now, that's not all new. It's not all new movies. That's old movies and everything else in between. But yeah, I did pretty good this year. But if you've heard him kind of muttering in the background there, we have a special guest on this episode. Mr. James Gentry has returned to the podcast. Gentry, welcome back.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me back. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
It has been far too long, sir, and we are happy to have you back on the show.
Thanks, guys. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, as Matt said, this is our end of the year 2016 movie discussion, where we'll be talking about all of our favorite and at least most interesting films that we got to see this year, and then we're gonna finish the episode up with the first annual Golden Planet Awards. It's kind of like the Golden Globe, except more legit, I think.
Yeah.
So this is our own personal awards for the movies of 2016. So, Matt, before we get into everything, I wanted to briefly talk about the news today. We're recording this on Tuesday night, the 27th, and of course, as everyone probably knows out there, Carrie Fisher passed away today. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I know you and I kind of talked before. We were both surprised at how hard this hit us. But what did Carrie Fisher mean to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like you said, it's not something that I'd thought of, and I had never really thought about, like, oh yeah, when Carrie Fisher passes away, I'll be devastated, because I guess partly I just didn't see her as being that old, and she wasn't. She was only 60.
Yeah.
And I started watching the Star Wars movies when I was maybe 6 or 7, and I was always a huge fan. So it's just kind of a person who's been a part of my life for almost my whole life, and it definitely hurt more than I expected it to. How about you, Scott? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Like, it's weird. The heart attack she suffered was a couple days ago. I think it was on Christmas Day or the day before Christmas. And so we kind of had some warning, and that we knew she wasn't well, but she had gotten into stable condition. But it's still, like, it hit me really hard. I think Carrie Fisher is, like, on top of being Princess Leia, which we all know her from, she was also an accomplished actress in many other films. Her role in Blues Brothers is just great. I really want to watch that movie again. But she was also a very accomplished writer. She was a script doctor who doctored a bunch of scripts in the 90s that she received almost no credit for. Last Action Hero was one that we talked about recently, Matt. She did a touch-up on that script. No one knows that. She didn't get any credit for that at all, but she was very good. Like, I saw all kinds of pictures being passed around today of copies of the Empire Strikes Back script with her notes on it, on some of the scenes, and the notes that she took and the changes that she made ended up in the final movie. So what impact she had on those movies, we can't even fully know. But she was obviously very talented. She was one of the most outspoken mental health people out there. Like, she was diagnosed bipolar, and she was very upfront and honest about it. Kind of tried to get the stigma away from mental disorders. So she did a lot of good work, and yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah. It is unfortunate that kind of this is how I have to learn a lot of these things. Like I kind of, even though it hit me hard, I didn't know how awesome she was until after she was gone. And
Yeah.
that's kind of always how it is. Like I never probably listened to more David Bowie since David Bowie died than I listened to before he died, honestly.
Right, and speaking of kind of back onto theme, which is 2016 as a whole, we lost a lot of celebrities this year. We've talked about several of them on the podcast and how much they meant to us. But if this is just something that it happened a lot this year, and frankly, I'm kind of sick of the like screw you 2016 talk. I think Matt, you and I were talking about this earlier. That this is arbitrary. It's arbitrary calendar created by people. It means nothing. What's happening is baby boomers are getting old, and like you said, the 70s was really the time that the explosion of pop culture and how important these people became to us all happened around then, and now these people are just getting old, and this is going to increasingly happen over the next probably 5 to 10 years. So it's tough, but I do appreciate, like, some of these people, like Carrie Fisher is tragic to me because she is so young. I mean, 60 is about my parents' age. That's crazy. But some of these people that died this year had very long, healthy lives and did a lot of things. So it's tough, but it's part of life. And I think we, like you said, Matt, we can use these as a moment to honor what these people did and hopefully pick up their mantle.
Yeah. I guess that's a very healthy way of looking at it.
Yeah. Gentry, do you have? I mean, did you have any?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to be honest, I think it's going to be kind of like what Matt said. In my case for Carrie Fisher, I think I'll learn a whole lot more now than I ever knew before. But it did make me think of something, I guess, or maybe y'all's conversation earlier. When I saw. Basically, up until I saw Scream 3, and she obviously makes a small little cameo in that movie back in 2000. Up until I saw that movie, I don't think I had seen her in any other form other than in the original Star Wars. And so that was like the first time I saw her, as obviously, an older actress at this point, or just, celebrity. And when I realized, she didn't look super old, she still looked young, but I can clearly tell it wasn't Princess Leia or whatever. Like, that really kind of hit home in terms of oh gosh, some of these people, these celebrities that we kind of grew up with and love are getting old, and they will get old, and there will come a certain point when many of them start to kind of pass away, or it feels like many of them start to pass away. And I feel like that's kind of what we've slowly walked into this shallow pool of some of our favorites going too early, or whatever the cause is. Just watched Die Hard on Christmas Eve, seeing Alan Rickman again. It just crushes me because he's he's someone that I connect with as a fan of all his work and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it was obviously a big shock, and I maybe not as big of a shock at the moment, only because I feel like this has been kind of not the theme, but there's been so many this year. I was just, man, of course, like Carrie Fisher, but you guys are right. Like, it's not. We can't look at this in a number. I mean, 2016 is just it's all time. Like, it's all jumbled together, and people are just old. I mean, that's just what happens. We have obviously family members that are getting up there. We have parents and whether we have grandparents or not and stuff, and so it happens. And hopefully in the time that she had, she was happy and lived a good life and stuff. And I'm sure we'll learn a lot more now. So.
Very well said. I will say that her one-woman show, Wishful Drinking, is on HBO right now. It's on HBO Go, and I watched it again today, and it's just marvelous. Like, her sense of humor is just so wonderfully dark and sarcastic, and it's phenomenal. I recommend both of you guys go watch that. Everyone listening, go watch it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, you definitely piqued my interest when you mentioned it earlier, and I had no idea it was even on there.
I was laughing while holding back tears at the same time, so it was quite an experience. But that's Carrie Fisher, rest in peace. I'm going to be watching a lot of movies that she's in over these next few days, and all her memoirs and stuff is all sold out now, so people ran out and bought all those, which is great. I need to do that as well, since I've never read her memoir, and I really want to, because it's supposed to be excellent.
Yeah. That's cool.
All right, so let's stop being somber, because I think that's the last thing Carrie Fisher would want us to do. And let's talk about the year. Let's talk about 2016 in movies. Guys, there's a lot of people out there that are saying that 2016 wasn't a very good movie year. It's mostly because summer, a lot of movies did not perform very well, at least not up to what the expectation level was. Obviously, there were still some movies that made $1 billion. I think Finding Dory and Captain America: Civil War both did that, and I think Jungle Book was close. But there were also a lot of failures in the summer movie season. So I think people when they look at the success or failure, or how good a year was, they tend to only look at Hollywood's blockbuster fare. But I think there are a lot of very, very good movies that were made this year that just didn't break through in any meaningful way, which is really tragic. But I wanted to bring some attention to them on this podcast with you guys, because I know even you, Matt, have seen some of them. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to, I don't want to go through a top 5 or anything, but I just kind of wanted to hit on all of our big movie experiences this year, and what movies we saw and what we liked, and maybe what we didn't like a little bit, and what you guys thought of the year in film. So Matt, why don't you I know you didn't see very much, so you go ahead and start with what your overall impression of the year, and maybe we'll dive into some of your films.
Yeah, sure. It's funny. I was half serious at the beginning that I hadn't seen hardly any movies this year, but actually, by the end of the year, all the movies that came out at the start of the year are available on Netflix and so forth. So, and I did actually manage to finally go see Arrival in theaters, which I would probably put at the top. So, Arrival is definitely one that I can't recommend enough, and it's just exactly the type of science fiction movie that you want to see, and that it's kind of an instant classic, actually.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about Arrival a little bit, because I think this was the only one that all three of us, and Adrian as well, who was unable to be here tonight, but he as well put this on his list as one of his favorite movies of the year. So I think this was as close as we got to a consensus. I think our lists are similar in a lot of ways, but different in others. But you're right, this is a very special movie, and I'm really glad that you guys all loved it as much as I did. I saw this at Fantastic Fest, and this was my favorite movie of the festival. I watched it again after the election, and it kind of took on a whole new meaning to me, slightly more hopeful but less realistic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. This is a movie that it's just functional on an incredible level. It just works so well, and it's such a joy. But while also being really, really heartbreaking at the same time.
Yeah. It's like how we've talked before about how the best kind of movie is one where the story and the themes and the characters all kind of align and are saying the same thing, and the message is coherent on all these levels. And this is, essentially perfect, because it's telling the story with every tool of cinematic craft and storytelling craft. I thought it was interesting for me because I had read this short story that it's based on a long time ago, and I was walking into it and I was thinking, I wonder if this movie is going to affect me at all, because I already know the story. So how can it really have that effect on me if there's no dramatic irony? And I was almost immediately affected, just as much as the movie wanted to affect me, because it was such, like you said, it was so functional. It was so artful in how it, conveys emotions and conveys themes. So it was fantastic.
Yeah, and the one good thing I will say about this movie is that it is finding an audience. It is, we talked about how this was a rough year for big budget blockbuster films, and here's a movie that I walked out of it saying, I love this movie. I'm really worried about its chances in general theaters. And it is a movie that has made $144 million, I think, on a $30-something million budget.
Wow!
So it's done really well. It's found an audience, and that gives me hope. There's talented actors and directors, and and writers, and the score in this movie is incredible, and all these people are getting rewarded for it. So, Gentry, you put this one on your list too, right? So
Yeah, I did. I didn't get to see it at Fantastic Fest, but I did, finally catch it at Draft House pretty early on as soon as it was out. I mean, yeah, everything you guys said and more. I mean, it really just hit all the right spots, and the score itself, had me already on the edge of my seat. But it flowed well, and it was like an interesting kind of like sci-fi little puzzle piece, or should I say, little puzzle game. And I thought, the characters, or should I say, like the cast that they had in it, didn't. There was not a whole lot of overlap. Like everybody kind of played their part, and it was small, but it didn't have to be like big, and like it's just it was a very interesting way to do kind of like this encounter that may eventually happen, between humans and aliens, and I just thought every single idea that they had, maybe it was not original because there's a lot of stuff I haven't seen out there, but felt original and grabbed me, and it was a simple story, and the fact that they told it from her perspective, I thought was a really good idea, and just really good choice. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to wrap my brain around kind of like why I liked it so much, but overall it was just a very solid, the story in itself, and kind of how it started out, and all of a sudden just kind of jumped, but there wasn't necessarily any action because there didn't have to be. There wasn't really supposed to be, and the ending, it did bring actually a tear or two to my eye. When she was on the phone with the Chinese, what was he, like, commander or general?
Mm-hmm.
Like that scene really kind of like hit the nail on the head for me, because it just culminated so perfectly, and it didn't have to be anything crazy. And the fact that you said it was $30 million budget is astounding. And I think it definitely deserves every recognition that comes its way. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful on this one for the Academy Awards. I think I don't know if it'll win, but I think it'll get some nominations.
Right. And nominations.
As a correction, the production budget was actually $47 million. Sorry, I was a little off, but irrelevant. It is still It has still made its money back and then some. So it is going to be a very profitable movie, which is just very good. Very good.
It makes me. Yeah, I mean, and it potentially is going to show people that you can have these kind of slow-paced, serious, kind of calm science fiction movies and have them be successful if you do it right.
Yeah, and that's there's a lot of talk these days about how this type of middle budget movie doesn't get made anymore, and the reason it doesn't get made anymore is because it doesn't make money anymore. That you either have super cheap $10 million films with no recognizable actors, or you have big budget blockbuster films. And this type of movie doesn't get made. So the fact that it not only did it get made, but that it's seeing success is so encouraging for this industry. So make more movies like this, Hollywood.
Yes.
Yes, please.
All right,
yes,
Matt.
Because yes. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is Moana.
Moana.
Which I think I probably liked more than most people in my age group. But I thought this was a really great Disney movie. I mean, I'm a connoisseur of Disney movies, and this one was, I thought, especially good. I really loved all the songs, which were, of course, mostly written by Lin-Manuel Miranda of Hamilton fame. They're extremely catchy songs. We've been listening to them with the kids, and the kids have basically like learned them, and we'll just sing them on their own, which is, I mean, to me that just speaks to their quality, because we watch a lot of movies that have songs, and the kids only really, ask to listen to the songs later, and then learn the songs if they like the songs.
Right. And
they've learned almost all the Moana songs now, even the 2-year-old who, kind of amazing that he can learn songs when he doesn't even know the words that he's singing in many cases. But and I got to take them to see that in the theater, so that was kind of a special experience for me, actually. So that might be affecting my impression of the film. But I really like this. I really liked Moana like quite a bit as a movie. Like it all Disney movies are very effective and functionally done from a story perspective. And I thought this was a good example of that. What did you guys think about Moana, if you saw it?
Yeah, I think you're a little more positive on it than I am. I certainly did not dislike it at all. Listing out the animated movies of the year, I didn't really like The Secret Life of Dogs and Cats or whatever it is. I did not like Finding Dory at all. And so this is definitely the upper echelon of animated films for me. I think it's a very well made movie. I agree that the music is very catchy, and songs that I didn't think I was going to like, I found myself listening to even today still, and I saw this over Thanksgiving. So I'm generally in agreement with you. There are parts of it that didn't work as well for me. The middle part of the film didn't work very much for me. There's a lot of and it seems contrary to say that there's not much that happens. It's a lot of talking between the two main characters, but I think it all comes together very well in the end. And it's a very encouraging film too. Kubo and the Two Strings is one of my favorite movies of the year, and it's definitely my favorite animated film. But it's really problematic with its decision to not hire very many Asian actors and actresses to do the voices of Asian characters in a predominantly Asian story, whereas Moana knew that they were going to do a Pacific Islander type story, and they set out intentionally to hire only people of that persuasion for this film.
Yeah.
So I think they took the time and effort to make sure that this was not only accurate to that culture, but that they had people from that culture represented in the film, and I think that's commendable and important.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I can see the criticism of the middle part of the film lacking propulsiveness, but I kind of don't care because I love the song with Jermaine Clement so much.
And see, that's like I don't like that song, and I don't know why I don't like that song, because I see it's doing Bowie, and I love Jermaine Clement. The recipe for that should be, for me, one of my favorite songs of the film, but for some reason it just didn't work on me. I don't know. Maybe I need to see the movie again.
Is he a character in the movie?
He is. Yeah. He plays a crab, right?
Giant crab
that has bedazzled himself with jewels.
Yeah.
Damn it! Didn't get to see either of those.
It's in the YouTube of the song.
The imagery for that entire land of monsters, though, is just amazing. Like,
yeah,
it's a beautiful movie in like every aspect. Like, it's wonderfully imaginative. The CGI looks great. It's a very good movie. I will not.
Pixar.
Disney. So.
Oh, gotcha.
It's Disney Animation Studio. So they did Frozen.
Yeah.
Zootopia early this year. Man, there's a lot of animated movies this year. I totally forgot about Zootopia. Matt, what else you got for us?
I guess the next best movie, I'm not actually ranking them. This is just the order that they to me. The Nice Guys, which we talked about recently on our Shane Black podcast. I didn't even fully realize that this movie came out this year, that it was this new. But the Nice Guys is a really fun movie that it seems like it was just sort of missed. Like it was it felt kind of misadvertised, and I don't know if a lot of people saw it. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it was like an instant favorite movie for me. And again, we talked about this on the Shane Black podcast, but I see no reason why we can't plug it again here, because I want people to see this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say exactly what I said over again, but I completely agree with you here. This is one of my favorite films of the year. It's remarkable. I love Shane Black. I love his outlook on life. I love his view of the world, as different and kind of dark as it is. There's still a ray of hope in there that's always permeates through his films. For more talk on that, visit our Shane Black podcast. But yeah,
very well said, though.
I completely agree with you. Gentry, what did you think about this movie? I see that this is on your list. So.
Yeah, of course. I actually just watched it last night, and I guess I didn't mention, Scott. Yeah, it was one of my first 4 Blu-rays that I purchased a couple of weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. They were 50% off, and I was like, oh, it's like nice guys for like $8. So,
Worth it.
um, yeah, definitely. No, I love it. I mean, like, I still haven't seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. That's obviously for some reason still eludes me, but like, I do like Shane Black, and definitely love kind of how you mentioned his approach. Yeah, it's very fun, and like we kind of talked about in a earlier podcast, they do a really good job with bringing you to 1977 Los Angeles. Like I think they do a really good job with the set pieces and the music. And again, another film that it paces itself really well, and it's not super long, but it like holds you the whole time, and it's got a nice little twist, and all the cast is wonderful, and it's the type of Russell Crowe that I love. Um, and yeah, it's just a great experience overall. Me and my dad went to go see it in theaters. We both loved it. So yeah, it's just one of those kind of gems that I think I'll enjoy for a long time. So it's definitely, I do appreciate kind of the dark kind of side to life, but also with having that hope in those conversations that they have. And I think they do a really good job with some of the characters. The what's his face's daughter, and
Mhm.
just the relationship between her and her dad, and Russell Crowe. It's just good. It works. So yeah, on my
Absolutely.
list.
And like you were mentioning, Matt, this is a movie that just was kind of passed up. It did not make a lot of
Yeah, I don't
money.
know why.
Shane Black movies, Iron Man 3 aside, never really
Yeah.
do great at the box office, but they always kind of find a cult following afterwards. So I think this movie will be the same. Obviously, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang did not do well at the box office either, but has had a nice following afterwards. So I think this movie will be the same. And
Yeah.
I want another Russell Crowe Ryan Gosling team up immediately.
Yes.
I don't
That'd
care
be great.
I don't care if Shane Black directs it. I would love him to, but just get them together again because those guys play off each other so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't think that you don't expect them to, but it's
No.
amazing. Yeah.
And I love that Russell Crowe has kind of embraced his non-leading man
hmm
role now. Like not that he can't lead a picture. Like I fully think he can, and he has, but he's embraced this kind of either you know part of a duo or a side character type thing, and he's doing really interesting things with it.
Yeah. It's much more fun watching him not taking himself so seriously,
Yeah,
honestly.
absolutely. All right, Matt, you got anything else for us?
Just I think one more would be the new Ghostbusters, which
Dun,
I
dun,
saw like
dun.
way late. I saw it when it came out on Netflix or whatever it was, some other streaming. And obviously this is like a weirdly controversial movie because I mean I don't even know if controversial is the right word. It's more like storm in a teacup type situation. Um, but and so I was kind of like expecting. I don't know. I had weird expectations going into it. I was like, I've read so much about this movie, and it's been the source of the center of so much controversy.
Mhm.
And then I saw it, and I was just like, oh, this is pretty funny. And yeah, it kind of goes off the rails toward the end, but it's not like it murdered my childhood. It just it made me laugh quite a few times, laugh out loud, and then it didn't end quite as well as it should have. That's okay, and it was a good movie. So that was my feelings about Ghostbusters 2016.
Yeah, this is not on any of my lists. I did not think this was a bad movie. I agree with you that the ending has a lot of problems. The story is not very good. But it feels weird to say this, but it almost doesn't matter. Like, it's funny, and there are like I see constantly like pictures of little girls dressed as Ghostbusters because of this movie, and that's important. So it's okay that it's not the world's greatest movie. Like it was never going to be as good as the original Ghostbusters because the fact that is such a good movie is like a miracle. Like it shouldn't have happened. Like there's no reason why that movie should have been as good as it was. So we never were going to meet that. So just the fact that it's a serviceable, often funny movie, I think is fine. And I think the actresses in it are great. I love Leslie Jones. Kristen Wiig is very, very good as well. Who is your favorite character, Matt?
the one who's supposed to be Egon.
What's her face? I always forget. Kate McKinnon.
Kate McKinnon is wonderful, and she needs
They
her
did a
own,
good job.
she needs her own movie.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily that character, but Kate McKinnon as an actress has such skill and comedy chops that I want to see her have all the success in the world. And I think Ghostbusters was just the start of her career in film.
I don't even know what else she's been in. Like
I mean, she's SNL. That's really it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing her in a bunch of things, which I'm sure will happen now.
Yeah, she was a minor character in Office Christmas Party that came out a few weeks ago, which was an okay movie.
So with Ghostbusters, like when we were doing like the little chart on the spreadsheets or whatever, like or dislike, I think I put dislike and not hate or anything. It is a serviceable movie. It is funny. It has some funny moments. Like I will say the good that comes out of this is those women, like they're great actresses. They're really funny just in general. They really work off each other really well. It seems to be pretty seamless. But a couple things that I feel like just could have been slightly different, and it would have just been, I think it would have been received a lot better. Like number one, I get it, like they do all girls, but they didn't necessarily have to do all girls. Like I think if you just find a good chemistry, like Hemsworth's character is like, it's just kind of cheap comedy.
I love him. He's my favorite part of the movie.
Really?
I love his character so much.
I mean, like I guess like I think maybe like I found him funny and more towards the beginning than the end, but like I guess maybe having him have a slightly different personality. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure what I want in a Ghostbusters movie anymore. So it definitely got me on some of the cheap laughs, but I thought that I know that it could be done. I think it could be done better. But yeah.
Yeah, and I will not disagree with you there. I think one of the main problems the film has is its need to be beholden to the previous film, and we have to have references back to the original Ghostbusters.
Like every film likes to do these days.
We have to have cameos, awful cameos. Every single cameo was terrible, with the exception of maybe Ernie Hudson. He was okay, but like the Bill Murray cameo was nonsense. The Dan Aykroyd cameo was not good.
Yeah. Almost all the bad parts that you're mentioning were loaded toward the end of the movie, or at least in the second half. I think the first half was much funnier and better paced, and it was kind of its own movie. It wasn't really just ripping off the first movie beat for beat.
Right.
So
agreed. And Leslie Jones was fantastic.
Yeah, I love her so much.
Great.
She's great.
She's great.
Okay, so yeah, that's I think that's your films, at least the ones you wanted to touch on, right, Matt?
Yeah, that's my top or noteworthy films of 2016.
All right, I think the only one we wanted to touch on before we move on to Gentry is Captain America: Civil War, right? We wanted to touch on that movie a little bit, just because nobody talks about that movie anymore.
Yeah, we spent a whole podcast raving about how much we all love this movie, and I was just saying to you earlier, like this is just kind of like faded in my mind. Like I'm just like, oh yeah, that was a pretty good movie, and if I had the opportunity to watch it again, I might. I don't know. It might pass.
Yeah, and see, I wonder if that's something that's systematic of how modern blockbuster films are constructed, where even the good ones are good in a very temporary kind of way. That they have, like, I loved that movie, and I still do. Like, thinking back on it, I still do love it. But you're right. I don't think about, like, I think about The Nice Guys. I think about Arrival. I don't think about this movie at all anymore. And I probably will again coming up to the release of the next one. And then both movies will fade from my mind until the next one comes out. And I mean, it's a model that's working for them, so I certainly won't criticize them for it. But you're right. These movies, as good as they are, do not have staying power. Like really powerful movies. Like, I mean, Mad Max Fury Road will be a movie that I will think about and revisit and discuss for probably the rest of my life. And Captain America: Civil War will not be that film.
Yeah, I mean, just to conjecture as to why that might be, I feel like when you're watching a movie like that, it's really fun, and so you cut it some slack in certain regards. So
Hmm.
it may not be emotionally connecting the way it's trying to emotionally connect. It may not be succeeding at the thing it's trying to do, but you give it a pass, and the pass extends to maybe a couple weeks after you've watched it when it's still surrounded by this fun haze. But eventually, your brain loses that fun haze, and it's really just the question of, okay, did this emotionally connect to me the way it was supposed to emotionally connect to me? And I think this movie did not land certain emotional beats the way it wanted to. Um,
Hmm. I think that's fair.
and yeah,
Well, it was like a hybrid of, Captain America and then the Avengers movies, right? So I've only seen it once. I saw it in theaters. Um, so I guess I haven't really like sat down to think about it. I'm the kind of person that when these movies like come out on streaming or for rent or whatever, I like to knock out like two or three at a time as like a little marathon
Hmm.
because it's just like comics, I mean, you're just like
Yeah.
reading a ton of comics. So it's hard for me to like think because I mean, overall, we're gonna think about the story, I think eventually as a whole, but this is just another piece. And as awesome as it was, I'll probably think. I mean, I'm assuming most people will probably think back more fondly on the airport scene, the action sequence or whatever, maybe the ending, the big reveal or whatever that type. But just as a whole movie, I probably will remember a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy before this, or even you know Winter Soldier, just as an example.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's fair. All right, so let's move on to you. We know now that both The Nice Guys and Arrival were on your list, so let's not talk about them again. But let's talk about the other interesting movies that you saw this year.
Okay. We'll start with, I'll say in terms of when I saw him, because Deadpool, that was one of them.
The
Um,
the Golden
just
Globe nominated Best Picture film, Deadpool.
yeah, since we just got done talking about Civil War, might as well piggyback off that. But so Deadpool is just, I consider it like a small random. I mean, I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, man, it's like a cool, sweet cult superhero. No, like whatever. It's obviously a part, of a big company and everything. I just think they did it right, and I never read any ever, and I feel like from what I hear or from at least my experience, Ryan Reynolds seems to kind of just nail it, and it's funny. I liked the jokes, like that. Those are jokes that I think it's I thought it was pretty smart writing. I mean, obviously there's cheese here and there, but like I love, he owns it, so it makes it even better. It enhances it. And yeah, it was kind of like it wasn't like your typical, even action or superhero action movie. You had, the ending at the beginning with, these flashbacks kind of, interspersed, but I thought it was balanced pretty nicely. And I loved the cast. Nobody was too big for their own shoes, and it was a nice little add-on of the two X-Men. I just thought they treated that world exactly the way I wish all the X-Men movies were treated, with a little bit more realism, a little grittiness, some dark comedy. But yeah, so yeah, I'm just a fan of. I guess I'm just a fan of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, and I'm kind of looking forward to see what they do. Whatever other appearances he comes out in. So
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think it was a good movie. I agree that Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is near perfect. I agree that it's probably the best X-Men movie ever.
yeah, which is sad to say, but it's yeah, like and mind you, I counted them, and I think I only saw about 26 actual movies and new movies like releases. But yeah, like it definitely it did it for me in terms of just what I want out of a superhero, out of a comic that I may not know a whole lot about. Kind of like it was kind of like Ant-Man for me, but more adults. Just straight. Kind of getting to the nastier side of mutants. So yeah.
while simultaneously having this cartoonish version of Colossus, which worked better than any other portrayal of any X-Men character ever.
Somehow, yeah.
By like a million miles. Absolutely. This is Colossus. That's Colossus. The guy in X2 X-Men United is just like a young bro that doesn't talk and carries a television around the hall. Like, what?
Yeah, he's not a character. This guy is a perfect character.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, like keep the movies small and you can do stuff like this. Like it just, you can do X-Men, whatever. We're not going to get into the rant of bashing X-Men movies.
We've done that a lot.
We've done that a lot. But no, I mean, Ryan Reynolds, like this is obviously his passion project and you can see it. Yes.
Yeah, I think my fear, and we've talked about this before, so I won't go too far into it. My fear is that they take all the wrong lessons from this. That they see, rated R, edgy comic book movie with poo-poo humor, and they try to copy it, or they try to, like, Fox says, people like Deadpool, let's drop him into our X-Men movies.
I know.
He won't work like that, and it won't, like, it'll confuse the tone and it'll be a mess. But I can see them doing it, so that's my fear here. I agree with you. This is a good movie. I still find it hilarious that it's nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Picture. Like that is I can't stop. It completely ruins the legitimacy of the Golden Globes to me, just because it's like, I don't know, like it's not a serious movie. It's not trying to be great art. It's doing what it does, and it does it fairly well. The intro scene, the opening credit scene of that film is probably one of the best and most hilarious opening credits things I've ever seen. That is something I will remember for a long time. So, what else you got for us, Gentry?
So after that, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and boy, that was a thrill ride. Just another movie. I had no clue what to expect. I know it had been connected to Cloverfield, but obviously it wasn't really. And that's what I loved about it, is that it was a very small movie in a confined underground bunker with a top of his game, John Goodman and what's her face? I don't know if I forget her name, but she's always great.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Thank you. Yeah. And the guy too, Jim from Newsroom. Like it was just a very, small story, and it definitely one of the best. That, and I would say maybe like Green Room were like old, like fantastic, dramatic thrill rides for me, to where I was, on the verge of like breaking out in a sweat or crying or laughing at the same time. Like it just hit all and it was very scary. Like it was very frightening in what it didn't really have to do. Obviously people have mixed feelings about the ending. To me, I could have gone either way. I don't think it ruined it. But I don't think it was. I think if it had not been in there, it still would have been fine. Even kind of just leaving it to some ambiguous result of what happens when certain individuals make it outside. So yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I liked it. It's definitely something I'm looking forward to seeing, at home. So
yeah, it's kind of funny. These movies come out at the very beginning of the year, and then by the end of the year, they're kind of forgotten. I like this movie a lot, and while I'm not mixed on the end, I there's no mixed. It's terrible. I do not like the ending of this movie at all.
Yeah.
But I agree that this is a very, very well, just confidently directed thriller. And you're right about John Goodman. Like, he's not going to be nominated for any kind of acting award for this, but he really should be. Like,
yeah.
Like his character, like the movie would not work if not for his character and him pulling off this air of friendly, like fatherhood charm type stuff with this seedy uncomfortableness beneath it. Like he perfectly toes that line, and he's able to play both of them, and he's able to go from one to the other, and he's able to transform fully into the kind of monster that he is. It's such a great performance, and that's not to diminish Mary Elizabeth Winstead's at all. She's wonderful in this film too, but he owns this movie so much, and I wish more people would talk about it. His
performance scared me in so many different ways, more than any 1 second of the actual movie Cloverfield. Like that's how good. Like that's what it made you feel. Like it was, yeah, it's just done so well in that regard. And yeah, I mean, it'd be great if he'd be nominated. It'd be one of those little things like, yes, kind of under the table, like, oh, sweet,
Yeah.
random, but yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where it's an actor you really like, and they do such a good job at playing a bad guy that you sort of see them as that bad guy, and you're like, no,
Yeah.
John Goodman, don't do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And because he totally becomes that person, and it's really one of those kind of disappears into the role things. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. See, Matt, you've seen more movies than you thought.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
I need to be more aware of what year the movie that I'm watching is actually from.
It's funny because Gentry's realizing this now. It kind of confuses it when you get to go to a film festival like Fantastic Fest, because Green Room is a movie I saw in
2015.
In 2015, in September of 2015, and it was definitely a 2016 movie, but it's been over a year since I've seen it, so it's kind of confusing. And so people forget about movies that come out in January, let alone when you saw it in September. So,
Well, I pulled up a list, and I was gonna ask at one point, hey, does Fantastic Fest movie count? But then I realized that the list that I did pull up that I was referencing had a decent amount of the Fantastic Fest movies on there.
mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, okay, cool, this counts. So, and that leads me to my last selection, which was The Handmaiden.
Gentry, before you go on, wonderful segue, beautiful.
Thank you.
And I ruined it by bringing it up, but
that's okay. It's the end of the year. Who cares?
So go ahead, talk about The Handmaiden.
So The Handmaiden. So I'm gonna butcher the shit out of this most likely, but I don't even care. So this movie was just quite an experience. I'm finding myself really. I've always enjoyed movies with subtitles, just first off. So I don't mind reading movies, but when you have a movie that is this gorgeous, just beautiful to see, visually, just so well done, but also with a script that really just kind of pulls you in and really kind of starts making you think right away, whoa, what the hell's going on? This movie, I feel like, does a great job and hand delivers it all to you, and it's just one of those experiences where maybe at times it felt slightly. I mean, I'm looking at the runtime. It's 2:24, so maybe at one point it felt slightly long, but at the same time it never felt. I was never bored, and so it would just constantly reel me back in. It was just one of those things where you're kind of puzzling out what is actually happening and what scenes happen when. But I thought the movie itself does a great job in setting it up, and then it does a really good job in kind of having the different phases and closes out the movie, in such an incredible way, just kind of tying up exactly what did happen. But anyways, I can rant on. I it's one of those things where I'm not near, expert as a critic enough to actually explain how wonderful this experience was. But yeah, it's definitely one of those movies that I thought about after Fantastic Fest a lot more, and decided, I was like, shit, I think I might have enjoyed this the most. But it was funny and serious and erotic, and it was all this mixed, just very intense story, and kind of brings in a lot of a lot of interesting culture. It mixes some of the Japanese and Korean text in there, in terms of the dialogue. It switches languages and during the movie, and it does a really good job of kind of keeping on track, but also trying to make you really figure out what the hell's going on. So yeah, loved it. Good stuff.
Yeah, this I think finally is one that Matt hasn't seen, right, Matt?
Yeah, and your praise of it was so cryptic that I still have no idea what it's about. So.
Yeah, well,
I know.
And honestly, I think that's good, because I think we talked about this on the Fantastic Fest podcast a little bit, so I won't go into too much more detail. But this is a movie in which structure is everything, and it's structured so well, that the movie makes you think you've got a handle on what it's doing, and then it throws you a curveball. So it suckers you in and makes you think, oh, I know what you're doing, movie. But then it just totally changes things up, and you kind of fall for it every time. And
yeah,
but it just works so well. And I don't want to talk about the plot in any kind of detail because I want people to go in and visit it on their own and kind of have this thing unfold in front of them. I am such a big fan of Chan-wook Park, and this is one of his best works ever. I really do love this movie as well. So I'm glad you brought it up. I don't want to talk about it much anymore because I want people to go see it. It is on.
Yeah,
I think it's on Amazon Instant right now. You can rent it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things you just have to give it a chance, and like you won't regret it. It's great. It's obviously for adults.
Yes, there are
only
very,
for adults.
There are very graphic sex scenes in this movie.
Yes.
Do not watch this in front of children.
Yeah, it's executed in such a mature and so cleverly written way that I just found myself just like smiling, like giddy, being like, man, this is great. This is fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Absolutely agree. All right. Thanks, Gentry.
Yeah.
So now
moving on.
We will briefly touch on some of mine. I've talked about most of these movies before because I tend to ramble on about movies I really like. I wanted to talk about La La Land a little bit because I don't think that's a movie I've talked about on the podcast before. This is the old Hollywoody musical starring Ryan Gosling. Wow, I just blanked on her name. How did I do that?
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone. Thank you. Jesus, it's one of my favorite movies of the year, and I can't remember the actors in it. This film, like, there are people talk about movies like this a lot because this is very much a throwback to old Hollywood type of musicals. So critics and people in the industry tend to like these type of movies because it's kind of about the world. That's why these movies tend to win Oscars because actors like voting for movies about actors. So it's rare to me that I see a movie that has this much hype built up around it that I say, wow, that was really as good and possibly better than I was expecting. But La La Land is that movie. I mean, first of all, the music is wonderful. Damien Chazelle, like, he loves jazz, as we saw in Whiplash. And his love for it comes out here, but you can also see his love of old Hollywood. There is definitely much a love letter to the movie musicals of the 40s and 50s. It's a gorgeous movie. The colors pop so much. It's so pretty to look at. The music is so good, and it's not the type of film that you would think it is. On top of all that, there's all that send off and nostalgia factor with it. But the love story at the center of this movie is very different, and it doesn't end the way you think it would. But it's still kind of beautiful and refreshing, and this is absolutely one of my favorite movies of the year. I love it, and I've been listening to the soundtrack obsessively since I left the film, and I really want to see it again. I really think this is a movie that you guys need to see in theaters.
I kind of want to see it, actually. I honestly hadn't seen the trailer till probably just a few weeks ago, somehow. I don't know how. But when I saw you mention it, I was like, huh. I was like, La La Land. And then the trailer came on. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. And then I keep hearing all these great things about it.
And they're all somehow accurate. Like, I really hope this movie wins Best Picture at the Oscars. It wins my Best Picture for sure. It's beautiful. See this movie.
Nice.
And so, the other movies on my list I've talked about a lot. I've talked about Kubo and the Two Strings a lot. The only thing I'll say about this movie is I'm fully aware of the controversy around it. We touched on that a little bit earlier when we were talking about Moana. I think this is the rare film where you can have a problem with the decision they made with the casting of the characters, but still appreciate the craft behind what they did. This is a stop motion animation film that is so impressive. Like, I've seen it multiple times, and I still question how they did the things that they did in stop motion. It is remarkable. It's beautiful, and it's a story about storytelling, and that is something that is just is kind of written for me. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed I didn't get a chance to see that in theaters. It looked beautiful for sure.
Yeah, I still haven't managed to see this somehow, even though I continually am looking for an opportunity to.
You'll get around to it, and I think you'll be thankful.
You can rent it already.
Yes. this is another one of those movies that sadly just didn't do well. It didn't find an audience. Leica movies never do great at the box office. I think this was performed one of their worst, unfortunately. It's kind of the problem is there's so many animated movies out right now, and it kind of fades into the background, which is really sad.
Yeah.
I think like the other Leica movies, though, I think this is going to do very well on home video and find kind of a second life. I think as far as these people are concerned, as long as their films make enough movie to justify making another one, they're happy. So as long as there'll be another Leica Studios film after this, which I very much think there will, I will be happy as well. So
Yes.
So anything else we kind of talked about already? So that's it. Guys, I think we had a really good conversation.
Wait, you should at least name your other three.
Okay, my other three are The Nice Guys, which we talked about. Swiss Army Man, which I talked about way back in July when I saw it. Still at the very top of my list, even after all these months. That movie is a joy, and Daniel Radcliffe should win an award for Best Actor because he plays a corpse like no one has ever played a corpse ever. It's so wonderful. And then Manchester by the Sea, which is the Casey Affleck drama, which is favorited in a lot of award categories right now. It's really, really good. It is one of the best examinations of grief I've ever seen on screen. It's a haunting and devastating movie that is made so well. So that's my 5.
All right.
And now that we've talked movies, it's time to give some awards. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first annual Golden Planet Awards. We have 8 categories that we made up, and we have 5 nominees in each category that we randomly selected. And then we have one winner that we just decided to give the thing to because that's how we do things. So let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
The first category is the best flop of 2016. This is, of course, the movie that made no money. It was actually really good. And we've talked about several of these already. So our nominees are Kubo and the Two Strings, Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping, Everybody Wants Some, Gods of Egypt, and The Nice Guys. So, Matt, before we read the results, who do you think should win this?
Considering I've seen only one of these, I'm going to go with The Nice Guys. But what do you guys? Let's.
I've only seen one of these 2, but I'm still going to say Gods of Egypt.
All right. and the planet goes to. Hold on, I just gotta open this envelope and get this. This is all very formal. Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping. Oh my god, I can't believe it. Accepting the award for Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping is me.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with the film, but that's how things
So
work.
was that good? Was that a good movie?
It was a remarkable movie.
And
nobody saw
really
it.
funny.
And it is so sad that nobody saw this movie. It is legitimately hilarious. It is so funny. It's a mockumentary to the level of Spinal Tap. It really is. And nobody saw it. It's tragic.
Damn it. I would have. It was just kind of hard to find people to actually organize a group because nobody cared. But we all thought it looked funny.
And it's funny because everyone loves the Lonely Island guys. They love their songs. Yeah. I just don't know if it was an advertising problem or they came out in summer or something. I don't know what happened. But I failed too. I didn't see this in theaters either. It's my fault too.
It seems like it came out at a weird time or something. Or it wasn't in theaters for long maybe.
It was early, right? January?
It's both. Yeah, no, it came out in, I think it was June. So it's both being in summer and around a bunch of other huge movies. Just killed it.
Bad idea. Which one is Everybody Wants Some?
That is the Richard Linklater film about the basketball team weekend. That's a very good movie too. And Matt probably would hate it because he hates
Unlikely, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how I feel about that title, but I'll have to check the movie out and see what I think.
All right, moving on to our next category. This is the Franchise Killer, a.k.a. the Terminator Genesis Award. So this is a movie that was supposed to carry on a franchise and failed miserably. So our nominees here are Allegiant, which is the Divergent series movie, which failed so spectacularly that the last movie in the series is being made into a straight-to-TV series.
The last one. That's number 2, and the third one isn't even going to be a movie.
That's number 3. The fourth one isn't even going to be a movie.
Oh, the fourth one.
Yep.
Oh man.
So we have Ghostbusters, previously talked about. Did not make very much money. Probably will not have a sequel. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Out of the Shadows, bombed spectacularly and killed that franchise. Independence Day Resurgence, what was supposed to be the first in a long line of Independence Day sequels, no more. And Warcraft.
What?
A movie that bombed spectacularly in the United States, but somehow made money overseas. But will there be another Warcraft movie? I don't know. And the planet goes to... I'm opening the envelope. Okay.
Yep.
Drum roll.
Independence Day Resurgence.
Woo!
I am not kidding when I tell you that there were 3 movies planned in this franchise. And then Independence Day Resurgence bombed so terribly that they're done with that. The series might be dead.
Yeah,
So,
good. Good choice.
Yeah, it's good. It is good.
I don't know what they were expecting, but I actually didn't know that they had planned additional installments, but yeah, that's probably a good call. This was kind of just like a, fun, last hurrah type of thing.
Well, it's a shame though because like the alien invasion movies are a fun genre. There are many alien invasion movies that I like, so you have to really go out of your way to make a bad one, I think.
Yeah.
Well, they did it. It's just an uninspired, terrible film.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, they just haven't really showed them invading yet. They just get stopped in both movies.
Well, yeah, we're never going to see what happens. They were supposed
And
to
when
go to
they
the
do
alien...
invade, when they do invade, it's like in between the movies, and then all you do is hear a story about it from like one African guy in village or whatever. Yeah.
All right. The next category, kind of a playoff of the previous category, but also kind of different. A sequel that should never have happened. The nominees for this category are The Huntsman, Winter's War, a sequel to a movie that no one saw and no one cared about. Zoolander 2, a pop culture movie, 20 years ago? That no one was asking for a sequel to.
Gosh.
Now You See Me 2, a movie that's only on this list because the fact that it's not named Now You Don't is the most ridiculous thing in the world. Finding Dory. Finding Dory, the long, quote-unquote, awaited sequel to Finding Nemo. And Alice Through the Looking Glass, a movie I didn't see, but neither did anyone else.
Man.
Can all these movies win? Is that possible?
Seriously.
Unfortunately, there must be a winner, and that winner is... Oh, I like the drum roll. It's Finding Dory. Now I know what you're thinking. Finding Dory made $1 billion, but here's my argument: Finding Dory's a bad movie, and Pixar needs to stop making sequels.
Yeah, well, I mean, couldn't one argue that whatever movie Pixar had made instead of Finding Dory would have made $1 billion, and maybe they should have made an original property? I guess I don't know. See, I didn't really see Finding Dory, or I've seen parts of it.
I haven't seen it either.
I don't know if it's.
But I don't really need to. Finding Nemo is fine. Just fine.
Got an octopus in it, though.
It does.
I don't know if you knew that.
An octopus in it, and it has.
I'd rather just watch Planet Earth.
It ends with a fish driving a truck on a road.
What?
Yes. That's how the movie ends. It's
wowzers.
I don't understand it. It's a bad movie. It's bad, and I think it should not have been made. And yeah, I agree. Like I understand Pixar, and they feel like they have to do things like Cars 3 is coming out next year. I understand why they feel the need to do these things, but I want to see that. Like, they're at their best when they're making up new worlds and doing new interesting things. Like, Inside Out was so good, and I want to see them do things like that again. I don't want to see them revisit stuff where it feels like there's not even a story there, and they just kind of invent one. I liked Ellen DeGeneres' Dory in Finding Nemo. I liked her in the doses that she was given. She's a small dose type of character that cannot anchor an entire movie, and she can't.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're almost halfway through the awards. We've got a very special one next. This is the most likely to watch hungover on a Saturday morning on TBS, also known as the James Gentry Lifetime Achievement Award.
Heyo.
So,
Shall I go ahead and read them off?
So these are the movies that are not good, or some of them are good, but are movies that Gentry would find himself inexplicably watching with commercials on a Saturday morning for no reason.
So obviously, one of the requirements is that it's going to end up on a random network or cable channel like TBS, TNT, FX. That's the movies.
I feel the need to say that this award is not sponsored in any way by TBS.
No, not at all. But
So
anyways, go ahead, Scott.
No,
read
why
the list.
don't you read it, Gentry?
Oh,
this is your award.
All right. So Ghostbusters, Suicide Squad, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, The Shallows, and 10 Cloverfield Lane.
All right, now I'm gonna pass the envelope to you. So through the internet. So I'm passing it right now. So there it is. Okay, so you have it.
The winner is Suicide Squad.
What?
Garbage.
Now, this is absurd. Who wrote this show?
Not having seen, well, I've seen two of these, but I feel like The Shallows would be a contender just based on the premise. But,
so
that just seems like the kind of movie that I would find myself watching on a Saturday morning with commercials.
So Gentry, explain yourself.
Well, so okay, 10 Cloverfield Lane. I actually like it as a movie, as an actual film that I'd like to see, that I'm not just going to wake up and decide to watch the whole thing. I think it's very intense. So something I'd probably watch, planned or at night or, better setting. Shallows, I don't know. I don't usually watch scary, like, I guess maybe Jaws because it's one of my favorite movies, but then I'm just biased. But like anything else that's like a monster movie or scary, don't really do it in the morning, hungover. I want something lighter. So it boils down to the last three. And Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, it's kind of boring at the beginning. There's not a whole lot.
So boring.
I'm just not a huge fan of part of the movie. I like little elements. I like maybe if it's just the last 20 minutes of the movie or really just the mission itself, like sure, whatever. It'll make me think that I'm watching part of a Star Wars action sequence. So that leaves us Ghostbusters and Suicide Squad. And Ghostbusters was funny, but like I said, it's just kind of honestly, these are pretty close. But I guess it'd probably be Suicide Squad just because I don't know. I tend to watch the worst movies in these situations, and
yes, I know
movies just kind of colorful and stupid, and your brain's not really working, and you're just seeing things happen, and things explode, and stupid, not even funny references that you like to quote around your family because it makes everybody laugh. That's pretty much Suicide Squad, but maybe not even as memorable. So I don't know. Yeah, Suicide Squad obviously is the choice.
I want you guys to know that this is a little behind the scenes. I wrote this category so Gentry would pick Suicide Squad, and he did not let me down.
Yeah. Ghostbusters is definitely there. That's something I'll probably end up watching in the afternoon on one of those random days. But Suicide Squad is definitely a waker up to, oh my god, this is garbage, and just, I'm so hungover I can't even move. I'm just going to continue watching this. Anywho, thanks guys for that category. That was fun.
All right, moving on is the creepiest / worst CGI. We call this the Scorpion King Award. So the nominees here are Grand Moff Tarkin from Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, Princess Leia from Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, all of the Ninja Turtles from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Out of the Shadows, Garona from Warcraft. Now, I know what you're thinking. Garona wasn't CGI, but she should have been because she looked terrible. Okay, and lastly, Doomsday from Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
aka Cave Troll.
And the planet goes to Princess Leia in Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. Now, I'm again a little behind the scenes. After Carrie Fisher passed away, I was thinking of taking this category out or giving it to someone else, but I decided that I think Carrie Fisher would agree with me on how fucking awful Princess Leia looks in Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. In her comedy special, she actually talked about how she felt in a few years that they're going to find a way to just take her likeness and build a full life-size model of her, and they wouldn't even need her anymore. And they did it in Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. So, in honor of Carrie Fisher, this award goes to Princess Leia. All right, we're down to the last 3 awards, the big ones of the evening, as they say. These are the ones that you continually cut to commercial in between to stretch the program out longer. Unfortunately, we don't have any sponsors, so we can't do that. So let's move right on to the worst movie of 2016. This was tough. There's a lot of bad movies out there, but we narrowed it down to just 5 films, and here they are: Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, Suicide Squad, Gentry's favorite movie, Yoga Hosers, that is the Kevin Smith vehicle that is awful, The Do-Over, that is the Adam Sandler Netflix movie that's equally awful, and Warcraft, a movie that was so close to being good and yet so far away from being good. And Planet goes to Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Shocking.
Oh, the irony.
Now here's the thing, gentlemen. There were worse movies in 2016 than Batman v Superman.
Well, now that I finally saw a good chunk of it.
He says as he just gave the award to it.
Yeah. I'm surprised to hear you say that, Scott. But
this is a film that took it failed on such a spectacular level. It is a non-functional film. It is bastardization of characters. It is so awful. And
where's Daniel?
It's it's really easy to pick on Kevin Smith. It's really easy to pick on Adam Sandler, and we have done it in the past, and we will continue to do it on this podcast. But this is a movie that is just like you could teach a class on how to construct a bad blockbuster and just talk about this movie. So that is why it earns this wonderful award. Since Daniel has been on the Daily Planet podcast in the past, by appearing on the podcast, he implicitly agrees to this award. So he has basically agreed that this is the worst movie of 2016. You heard it here first. So let's move on. Let's be positive instead.
I have a feeling he's going to have something to say about that in 2017.
Daniel's accepting the award on behalf of the movie.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the best movie of 2016. Let's be positive. So basically what we did for this category is we kind of looked at all of our lists, Adrian's including, and we kind of found the movies that, first of all, that appeared the most on our lists, or, I kind of let each person have what their top movie was. I let that appear on the list, and then also the ones that appeared multiple times. So the nominees for best movie of 2016 are Arrival, The Nice Guys, The Handmaiden, La La Land, and Moana. I always say that wrong. And the best movie of 2016 goes to Arrival.
Woo!
Yeah, we need to put some cheering sound effects in the back there. But yes, no. Look, I think this is the only film that was on all 4 of our lists. This is a movie that I think we all pretty much universally agreed was more than just good, more than just great, but a truly impactful and powerful and wonderfully constructed and made film. So I'm happy with this result. This is not my number 1 on my list, but I don't even care. I think we came to a consensus here, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because this movie came out relatively recently. It'll be interesting to see how we feel about it once it's had some time to age.
Yeah.
But I'm actually hopeful that it will age well. I think science fiction films tend to age well. You know, if you like them at first, you're going to like them 10 years later.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think this is a good. I think that this indicates that 2016 was a good year for movies. Actually,
I agree with you.
I agree, and very interested to see how the Oscars go this year. Just because I feel like there's some interesting movies that are going to be competing against each other, and I'm a big fan of a lot of them. So, and there's still a couple that I haven't even seen yet.
Yeah. I'm very excited, and we will have a podcast for the Oscars, I'm sure.
Show.
But before we go, we end the first annual awards. We wanted to have what I call the patting ourselves on the back award. So this is the best episode of our podcast of the year, and we had, I guess it was probably 50. I think we only missed 2 weeks, Matt. So we had 50 episodes this year. It was a really great year. We learned so much. But here are what we felt were the 5 best episodes of the year. First was episode 28. Always Be Questing. That is the one where you, me, and I believe it was Daniel, right? That
correct.
Got super nerdy about the MMORPG EverQuest. This consequently is also one of our most downloaded episodes because we linked it on an EverQuest subreddit, and turns out people really like EverQuest. So it's good to see that. I really enjoyed that conversation. I was told from people who have never played the game that it was still fun to listen to because they could tell how excited and interested in the topic we were. So that's good to know, I guess.
Yeah, I've actually gone back and listened to that episode more than once, which is unusual for me, just because it tickles me just the right way.
Mm-hmm.
For someone that's never played EverQuest, it was highly entertaining and very insightful, actually, since considering I did play, an MMO, throughout my time. So,
yeah. The next nominee is episode 3 of the Kryptonian Collection. This was the Silence of the Lambs episode. I wanted to have one of these on here because I'm very happy with how this series is turning out. It was kind of tough to pick which one. I went back and forth between having the first episode, which featured James Gentry on it, to one of the later ones. I do think that the episodes have kind of gotten better as we've kind of figured the format out, but I also think that Silence of the Lambs was a very good film, and it was one of the ones that was a little more divisive between our group. We ended up voting it in, but some of us were kind of mixed on it, so it was just a good conversation. So.
Yeah, I like all the Kryptonian collections, but that one in particular I think was one of the more argumentative.
Yeah, besides Red Belt, of course, which is to date the only film that hasn't gotten in. Sorry, Daniel.
That's great.
This is the shit on Daniel portion of the podcast. All right. Episode 38 is our next nominee. This is the one where Matt and I just got together and talked about the wonderful Joshua Oppenheimer documentary, The Act of Killing, for an hour and a half. I am really proud of this episode just because I think this is an immensely important film, and I was kind of worried about how we were going to effectively talk about this movie and do it the service it deserves, but I was very happy with how the episode turned out.
Where can one find this documentary?
It is on Netflix, I believe.
Awesome.
Or it was.
It was. I'd have to check on that, but or you can borrow it from me because I own it.
Perfect.
The next one on the list is episode 29. This was our deconstructing Wes Anderson episode. Matt, I was counting. We've now done 8 deconstructing series.
Wow.
And I think we're going to keep doing them because I think it's both of the most fun we have on this podcast. For those who haven't listened to any of them, this is where we pick a director and sit down and watch his filmography and then get together and just dive deep into it and talk about all his different movies and the kind of trends that link them, the style, what we think works, what we think doesn't work. I think you and I both really love Wes Anderson, which is why I think this is one of the better ones, because there's a lot of passion behind how we talked about this director. I also really like the Deconstructing Blomkamp episode, just because it was the first one we did for a director we didn't like. So that was at least interesting. It was trying to figure out why we didn't like his later movies, which I think we had a breakthrough there. Which
that one was fun because in mid podcast we actually figured out the reason. It was very dramatic.
Yeah, but I do like watching the Wes Anderson films was the most fun I've had, and then discussing them. So that's why that was nominated. And last but not least, is part of our continuing Phantom Zone series, which is the one that Adrian hosts. It's too bad he can't be here tonight, but episode 6 of Phantom Zone, Elves, the one that just came out last week, is on this list. I think we're doing a lot with that series, and we're still kind of trying to find exactly what we want it to be, but I had so much fun talking about this movie with you guys. It was so fun, and I think it really showed going back and listening to the podcast. There's a whole lot of laughing, and I was doing a whole lot of laughing even listening to it. So,
yeah, it's really deceptively fun to talk about terrible movies.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. Here's the Pat Ourselves on the Back Award. The Best Daily Planet podcast of 2016 goes to episode 29, Deconstructing Wes Anderson.
Heyo.
Once again,
thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
the Deconstructing series is a lot of fun. I love listening to you guys chat about that stuff.
It is, and we have, I'm so happy with how they're turning out. We have so many more plans to do, many more of them in the future. We've talked over and over again about doing one on the Wachowski siblings. We've talked about doing one on Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman, and there's so many more we have to do. There's so many
Michael
directors.
Bay.
Yeah, I would love to do a Michael Bay one.
Can't wait.
It's really fascinating. We're finishing up our year here, and I'm liking that we're stopping on this last one because this podcast is so much fun. Matt, I think you'll agree with me. And we've got so many more plans for next year. We're going to continue on with the series we've been doing. I think they're all turning out really great. We've got a few new ideas we're going to try out and see if they work or not. We've got so many more plans. So for those of you out there who listen regularly, thank you so much. And if you're new to the podcast, please go listen to our backlog. I apologize for the audio quality on some of the earliest episodes, but we were learning at the time, and we've made such strides. So that's 2016. We're done. We're done with 2016. We're going to throw it away, and we're going to move on. And that's actually a good segue to a preview for next week's podcast, because next week I want to have a 2017 preview pod where we're going to talk about some of the biggest films coming out next year, and if we think 2017 is going to be as good as 2016, if the blockbuster films are going to perform as well. There's a whole lot to talk about there. So come back next week and listen to us talk about those films. But until then, James Gentry, where can you be found on the internet?
The Twitter handle is @WenchTweet. Just both words smashed together, and that's about it.
All right. How about you, Matt Freeman?
I have a Twitter website called More Than Email.
Right. I am also on Twitter @ScottDaly85. That's DALY. You can also find this podcast, all of the other podcasts we do, and all the articles we write, including my top 10 films of 2016, which should be out by the end of the week, over at dailyplanetfilms.com. You can follow our Twitter @dailyplanetfilms to see news updates, and when we drop new podcasts, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, on Stitcher, on any other random app you have. If it's an Android app, our RSS feed should work. You can support us on Patreon if you like what we do and you want to help us out. And if you can leave us reviews and share this, that would be really great. That's it for 2016. So we will see you guys in 2017.
Bye.
Kevin Smith sucks.
That was great.
Podcast is over. It's done. We hope you all had some fun. Go back to your work or your school. Maybe the gym. Hey, that's cool. Regardless, just go away. But please come back next